In the study of warfare, nations are often defined not by the troops they field, but by the systems they build to sustain themselves. The Chaos Dwarfs are perhaps the greatest example of this principle in Total War Warhammer 3. While all three Chaos Dwarf factions draw upon the same armies, economy, and industry, each approaches conquest through a different philosophy. Thor Total War is here, and in this section we examine the internal structure of the Dawi-Zharr and how each faction approaches the art of war differently. Let us begin with the disciples of Hashut, led by Astragoth Ironhand. This faction is built around influence. The additional conclave influence generated by the faction may appear modest at the first glance, but its impact compounds throughout an entire campaign. Influence is among the most valuable resources available to the Chaos Dwarfs. It allows players to secure powerful sets within the Tower of Xar more rapidly, accelerating access to faction-wide bonuses and confederation opportunities. More importantly, influence can be used to establish settlements at higher tiers immediately. This drastically reduces development time and allows the disciples of Hashut to reach critical infrastructure much earlier than their rivals. In practice, they do not simply expand, they industrialize. Faster confederation, stronger tower bonuses, and quicker access to advanced settlements creates advantages that continue to scale as the campaign progresses. Of the three factions, the disciples of Hashut are perhaps the strongest expression of Chaos Dwarf administration and long-term planning. Considering that, I'm obviously going to place the disciples of Hashut as the mightiest of the Dawi-Zharr. There is no other faction that can enjoy so many bonuses so quickly, and because of that, they are the strongest, in my opinion, out of all the Chaos Dwarf factions, only because they scale well better than the other ones. So the later one, the Legionnaires Azgorh, they do have powerful bonuses as well, but in my opinion, they do not scale as much as the extra influence, because with the extra influence, you can just conquer any territory and make it into the 5 tier tower. The Legion of Azgorh approaches the same objective from different direction. Rather than accelerating political power, it accelerates military production. The faction's increased armament output directly strengthens the foundation upon which every Chaos Dwarf army is built. More armaments mean more upgrades, faster military expansion, and earlier access to advanced capabilities through the Hellforge. The reduction to Hellforge upgrade cost further reinforces the military focus, allowing upgrades to be acquired more efficiently. In my experience, however, the armament bonus is the more valuable of the two effects. Certain elite army compositions require substantial investment before they become truly effective, limiting the impact of the Hellforge discount in many campaigns. Armaments, by contrast, are useful in every campaign and support every single army. Every military machine requires fuel. For the Chaos Dwarfs, the fuel is armaments. If the disciples of Hashut are masters of administration, the Legion of Azgorh are masters of military industry. So overall, they are not as powerful as disciples of Hashut, but they are doctrine compliant and they boost their campaign significantly. Finally, we arrive to the Warhost of Drazhoath. Their bonuses focus primarily on logistics, additional convoys, increased trading flexibility, and improve access to resources throughout the campaign, while reduced requirement cost make war machines somewhat easier to field. These are certainly useful benefits, but they lack the transformative impact of the bonuses enjoyed by the other two factions. In many Chaos Dwarf campaigns, gold ceases to be a major limitation relatively early. Labor armaments and industrial capacity tend to become the more important constraint. As a result, cheaper war machines often provide less value than initially appear to. The same can be said about the additional convoys. They are convenient, but convenience is not always power. The Warhost of Drazhoath remains a solid faction, particularly for players who enjoy a smoother experience. However, when comparing factions mechanics alone, I find those bonuses of Disciples of Hashut and Legion of Azgorh more impactful over the course of the full campaign. So the Warhost of Drazhoath is by no means a super powerful faction. However, considering the fact that everything, absolutely everything that the Chaos Dwarf have access to is super powerful, and the Warhost of Drazhoath is kind of vanilla-like faction, they do follow the doctrine. They are not OP as the faction itself, but if I were to compare the Chaos Dwarf factions with more factions from the other races, then all of those would probably be going at least one tier up. But if we are comparing the Chaos Dwarfs to other Chaos Dwarfs, then Warhost of Drazhoath is by far the weakest one. So with the factions examined, we can now turn our attention to the legendary lords themselves and how each one wages war in service of the Dawi-Zharr. All three legendary lords are super powerful. However, out of all three of them, I do believe that Astragov is my favorite, because he has access to super powerful spells. Also, his doomstacks of bulls and renders are absolutely insane, as well as he can have this bit extra of tempo in the campaign, because he has access to extra casualty replenishment rate, as well as he becomes stronger the more units he kills. So overall, he goes into the very, very top, and he becomes the might of the Dawi-Zharr. Then we do have the Drazhoath the Ashen. And Drazhoath the Ashen has yet another ability that increases your momentum possibility as long as you don't take too big casualties, because he has access to increased movement range on the campaign map, which is absolutely huge for any character in this game. And on top of that, he has access to lower upkeep cost of Kadai units, and he can boost them quite well and overall make them into a doomstack. However, if it's not in his army, I do not really enjoy having Kadai Fireborn units in any army except for his, because they die really quickly and they take way more damage than you would be expecting them to take. While the Bull Centaur renders are way stronger in terms of surviving, so you only have to recruit them once and don't worry about losing the entire unit out of random. And then we do have super powerful ability, which increases the melee attack of all allies. So it can boost even the weakest troops that you have. Look at the laborers or the hobgoblin units. And even on those units, this boost is huge. Because the laborers become a glass cannon with that. And the hobgoblin units become a actually really competent troops. And on top of that, we also have to remember that he is a super powerful caster, and he also has a flying mount, and he is also really potent at melee combat. So he is definitely a might of the Dawi-Zharr. And now we are gonna analyze the Zatan the Black, the only fully melee lord in the entire Chaos Dwarf roster. He is extremely powerful melee lord, which can also hunt for the enemies due to the ability of Sadistic Snare. It decreases the melee defense of his victim, as well as allows them not to move. On top of that, he can recruit the armies way quicker than the others because he is having access to extra local recruitment capacity. So he can replenish any losses way quicker than anyone else. And he can get this bit extra momentum thanks to that. I do prefer not to lose units, but sometimes I do merge units to make them stronger, and that's when I would be using the extra recruitment capacity. And also, he captures way most casualties post-battle, which increases the income and amount of laborers we'll be getting. So considering that he is super strong, he is also might of the Dawi-Zharr. And now we will be analyzing the Gorduz, the Backstabber. And Gorduz is extremely powerful hero because he buffs the cheapest units in the roster to be on par with our Chaos Dwarf warrior units. And possibly even a bit stronger. So Gorduz, considering that he can buff all the Hobgoblin units, he is going into the might of the Dawi-Zharr because early on we can afford to have a army with Gorduz in the army that is composed of the Hobgoblins, and then the main army that is composed of whatever units we were able to obtain from the normal roster. And overall, that is why he is absolutely might of the Dawi-Zharr. The Overseer is a really powerful melee lord. However, due to the fact that it's quite hard for the Chaos Dwarfs to get their hands on the Sorcerer heroes, I am going to put the regular melee lord as a doctrine compliant. Meanwhile, the Sorcerer Lord, the Sorcerer Prophet, is going into the might of the Dawi-Zharr because he is not that much weaker than the Overseer in melee. He also has access to quite strong missile attacks, and both of them have flying mounts. The Sorcerer Prophet has access to super powerful spells, and this just makes him way stronger. So if the situation was as follow, that we can easily obtain the hero sorcerers, then the melee lord would probably be rated as the stronger one, However, since we do have really powerful options for melee heroes in as the Bull Centaur render heroes, then the melee lord himself is going a bit lower in the entire roster. Okay, and Infernal Castellan. So he is powerful, he can fight both in melee and in ranged combat, he's boosting us really well, and he is definitely a part of the might of the Dawi-Zharr. And now the Sorcerer hero, since he is not that easily obtainable early on, he would be going to Doctrine compliant. However, he is overall a really powerful option for a caster, so he is a Might of the Dawi-Zharr. And now we are going into the melee hero, the Bull Centaur Tauruk. He is powerful, he can get a lot of kills, he can tank a lot of damage, he can move the troops by a bit. So overall, he is definitely part of the might of the Dawi-Zharr. And now we do have the war machines of the Dawi-Zharr. And as you can see, I have only put one option for the Dreadquake Mortars. And that's because the other two options are not really that different, nor that much effective. So there is three variants, one with Iron Demon, one without, and one with the Iron Demon. So overall, the Dreadquake Mortar is one of the most devastating artillery pieces in the entire game. You will suffer, you will cry when you have to deal with them. I had to dodge at least 3 of them in one of the playthroughs as the dwarves when I was playing Rangers with the uh, Torgrim, Angrim Iron Fist. No. With Belagar Iron Hammer, and it was absolute pain. I have lost around half the army, even though that I dodged most of the shots. And definitely the Dreadquake Mortars, if you're not wasting your ammunition, is the mightiest piece of the artillery in the game. No matter which option you choose, it will still be a powerful artillery piece. However, if I would have to choose, I would suggest the Iron Demon variant because it has a bit extra missile strength and the Skullcrackers are not that great. They are alright, but not that great. And now we do have the artillery in form of the Hell Cannons. So the first regiment of renown that we see is super powerful because it has 4 entities in the regiment. So we are getting 1 regiment and we're getting 4 Hell Cannons. So it's absolutely super powerful unit. Meanwhile, the other ones, they are not that great only because they do share capacity with the Dreadquake Mortars. Or they did, at least. I have to actually check it right now. If my mouse start to work again, my mouse is dying. Never mind, I was wrong. They do not share the same recruitment pool, so the Hell Cannons are absolutely valuable choice, and I enjoy using them. But considering the fact that it's only a single entity, I'm going to put it into the Doctrine compliant over the Might of the Dawi-Zharr. And to remember that they do have homing missiles, so they are super accurate and they will deal the damage quite easily. And the Death Shriek rockets, in my opinion, they are good piece of artillery, same as the Magma cannons. However, there is one issue. They do share recruitment cap with the Dreadquake. So early on in the campaign, I absolutely advise using them because they are great. But later on in the campaign, they do fall off because we could be getting the Dreadquakes instead of the Magma Cannons and the Death Shriek. And the Hobgoblin Bolt Throwers, they are not as bad as they could be, because the bolt throwers for the goblins are absolutely terrible. But I would suggest using them. If you can, just get 2, maybe 3 for your Hobgoblin army, but do not attempt to use them with the Dwarven army. And the Skullcracker. So it is not as powerful as the other war machines, and I do believe that it should never be recruited. It's just a weaker version of a Imperial tank, and it also doesn't have the missile attacks. And if you can, get the Iron Demon if you wish, but be mindful that all those units share the same recruitment pool. And the Regiment of Renown is obviously going into Doctrine compliant because we can get it in a pinch. And now we are into the monstrous units. My mouse is dying again. So Kadai Destroyers, they are super late game, super huge entity units. They do have really good stats overall. However, I do not like fielding them. They will die quite quickly if you put them in the combat. And I prefer units that I don't have to replenish every few turns after harder fight. So you can use them in specific situations, but I would advise against them if you don't want to be spending extra turns recruiting, because they take few turns to recruit, and then if they die, you will also need to spend another few turns to recruit new units. And now the Bale Taurus. The Bale Taurus is a powerful flying monster. And let's check their unit caps. So they all have different unit caps. So I would actually suggest using all of those 3 units, because the Great Taurus is already quite strong. It's definitely stronger than a Manticore or the Celestial Lion, in my opinion, because mostly it lets the Chaos Dwarf army have this utility of having fast unit that can engage enemy units when the regular Chaos Warrior units cannot, because they are too slow, and those monsters are super fast. So the Bale Taurus is going into Doctrine compliant. It also has breath attacks. The Lamasu has special aura effects and can drop few spells, so it's also Doctrine compliant. And the Great Taurus, also really great unit that can be utilized to a really great degree of competence. And the Kadai Firebone. They are a unit that I don't enjoy using. I do not feel that it feels the doctrine of the Chaos Dwarfs too well. Because again, it will die quite fast unless it is in Drazhoath's army. Drazhoath can use them and buff them really well. But they are going to use only in specific situations, because in most regular Chaos Dwarf army, you are gonna have the most benefits if you use the Bull Centaur renders. And absolutely every single Bull Centaur render is a powerful unit that feels the doctrine really, really well. They basically work like a Schwerpunkt of the German panzer divisions from World War II. They are supposed to break the lines, sustain the combat, and push through. And all of them are absolutely part of the might of the Dawi-Zharr. So the great weapons, the Regiment of Renown, the dual wielding, and the regular renders with shields are going to be might of the Dawi-Zharr. And then the Astragov can buff them even more. And the Fireglaves are basically line infantry of the Napoleonic era. They are sturdy in melee combat, they are good in missile fights. They may have quite short range, because it's only 145, so they will not really excel in fights against other ranged units. But we do have artillery to deal with other ranged units, so the Fireglaves can easily be used as a standalone unit, and they are absolutely might of the Dawi-Zharr. So if you want, you can take them, you can recruit only them and artillery, and you can play a Napoleonic army with the Chaos Dwarfs if you wish. And the Regiment of Renown is... oh, those are actually blunderbusses. They are powerful. They are super powerful. And the regular Chaos Dwarf blunderbusses are one of the highest DPS units in the game. They will obliterate almost all enemies that they face. And I don't understand exactly why, but they are way stronger than the blunderbusses that the regular dwarves have, even though the regular dwarf blunderbusses came after this unit. And I don't really understand why there is so much disproportion between how they handle themselves. And now the rest of the Infernal Guard. The Immortals are really great Regiment of Renown, which will not suffer any model losses until we lose more than 25% HP. So they can dish out quite a lot of damage before they start actually suffering any casualties. And then on top of that, they will usually fight to the last. So they are definitely fitting the might of the Dawi-Zharr doctrine. And the Iron Storm Guard, they are absolutely super powerful. They are, in my opinion, way stronger than the Iron Breakers from the regular Dwarven roster. They do have more grenades and then can sustain combat for ages. And the Infernal Guard with great weapons. Again, a super sturdy, super powerful unit, which fits the doctrine super well. And the regular version, again, they are a bit more sturdy than the dual wielding. They have more melee defense. They will hold the line for longer, but the other variant will be able to punch through the enemy line faster. And the Chaos Warriors with great weapons, they are following the doctrine, but they will die quite fastly, so I frankly do not enjoy getting them. Because there is a high chance that we will have to replenish them or re-recruit a new unit. So I do prefer to get the regular Chaos Dwarf Warriors over them as a doctrine compliant units, and since the regular unit is going to do doctrine compliant, then the Regiment of Renown is going higher because we can recruit it if we are in a pinch. And absolutely this unit is also going up only because of that reason. And the Regiment of Renown, Goblin Wolf Riders, Hobgoblin Wolf Riders. Where to place you? Where to place you? So, in my opinion, since it's a hybrid of both the ranged and the regular Hobgoblin Wolf Riders, they are going into actually follow the doctrine. They are a good unit if you know how to use it well. They can absolutely break the enemy ranged units and then kite some dangerous units away from your army if you wish to do so. But they are not going any higher on the tier list. And the skirmisher cavalry of the hobgoblins is also because of this going to follow the doctrine. And the regular wolf riders are to be used only in specific situations. So, for example, if Imrik is still alive and he has a lot of archer units, then actually it would be quite good to get some of the Hobgoblin Wolf Riders to deal with those archers. And now we do have Hobgoblin Archers. And they are, my opinion, absolutely doctrine compliant unit. They can be successfully used with the front line of a sturdy dwarf warriors or infernal guard, and they can dish out quite a lot of damage, especially if we drop ash storms on the enemy. And the hobgoblin sneaky gates. So sneaky gates from the orc roster are already super powerful unit, and they just get better stats than those, and also a ranged attack. So the hobgoblin sneaky gates are going into the might of the Dawi-Zharr because they are cheap, they are accessible, and they deliver the value. And the regular cutthroats are gonna be doctrine compliant for the armies that base on the hobgoblin units. And the laborers, they are to be used only in specific situations. So the laborers, they are absolutely terrible, but at the beginning of your campaign, you are constrained by the unit limit caps, so you have to use those units. And don't be afraid to recruit 2 or even 3 extra lords and give them laborer stacks, because they are not gonna be costing much, and they are just gonna increase your battle potential by the increased health pool. So you can just throw waves upon waves of those units onto the enemy, while your main troops are dishing damage. So there you have it, lads. Where is a system? Use it well, and subscribe for more.